I just watched episode 1 of season 1 of Spider-Noir called Step Into My Office. And, I can't tell if it's good, but I like it. That's really my big takeaway from episode 1 of this show. I remember when it was announced. It seemed like something that they should have been doing a while ago, because this character was so popular coming out of Into the Spider-Verse. Now, obviously, the character of Spider-Man Noir has been around for a while, but this version, especially this version played by Nicolas Cage, the one with the fedora specifically, that is something I believe that did not exist before the Into the Spider-Verse version of the character. And Spider-Noir is not an incredibly consequential figure. He's fun. He's very distinct, so it makes sense when you are assembling a team of Spider-Man from across the multiverse, or doing what they did in that one game, we were playing in different environments. Noir is a great place to start. But if you compare this character to another Spider character, like Miguel O'Hara, Spider-Man 2099, like, no question, Spider-Man 2099 way more significant than Spider-Noir. But hey, he's a fan favorite character, he's played by an actor people tend to like, and in some ways, it's one of the more affordable Spider-Man. Like, if you wanted to spin somebody off of Into the Spider-Verse, 2099, who's technically in that, obviously that show would be expensive. Penny Parker has a mech, obviously that show would be quite expensive. I think they could still get away with doing a Spider-Ham show, but if you're looking at the main Spider-Man that aren't Miles, Gwen, and the Peter B. Parker version, Spider-Noir is the obvious pick for a show. And that's ignoring the fact that this noir detective thriller is a well-trod genre people are familiar with. So it is a sensible decision to say, let's take the Spider-Man character people liked from the movie and put him in a familiar kind of show. 8 to 10 episodes on Amazon Prime. This is my first kind of complaint or confusion here. I don't know why this is on Amazon Prime. Disney should be making this. I only say that because, say what you will about Disney, the release of this has been quite weird. Like, first of all, Spider-Man Noir released today at midnight on the 27th of May. Like 3 a.m. Eastern time on the 27th. But you could watch it ahead of time on MGM Plus, an app nobody I know has. I was trying to figure out, like, okay, well, I would like to watch this ahead of time. That would make these videos a lot easier, and I would just like to see it. And you couldn't do it because it was streaming on the MGM Plus app, like at a specific time, but you couldn't just watch it on the app. And this is all to say, I cannot imagine a lot of people figured this out and watched it on the app at the time they expected to. So that's thing one that was a little weird about the rollout of this. Thing two that I think is way funnier. This is just for me, maybe this will be different for other people. If you choose to watch Spider-Noir on Amazon Prime, you go to the page for the show, you see all the episodes underneath, like they usually do with things like this. They will show you other things related to what you are watching, things you might want to watch afterwards. For instance, this is Spider-Noir, so you kind of figure what they would have is like that Batman show that is also inexplicably on Amazon Prime. One of Amazon's many cop shows, The Boys, Invincible, Mr. and Mrs. Smith, Citadel, because spies are kind of like detectives. Fallout also has a similar sense of style. House of the Spirits, I don't know what that is, seems to take place around the same time, based on how some of these people are dressed. Marvelous Miss Maisel, also sort of around this time period. Amazon has so many shows they should be advertising here. If you go past the episodes and looked at what the customers also watched, you see, and I swear this is true, I took a screenshot of it, a movie called The Invisible Boy, a movie called Avengers Grimm Time Wars, Miss Chen Reveals All, some sort of Venom The Last Dance special feature, Ant-Boy 2, Guardians, which I have heard of before, and Thor God of Thunder. The same way I find it confounding that many streamers will launch a huge show, like one of their biggest shows, or like a season comes back, and you type in the search bar, and you type the first 3 letters of the show, and it's not at the top of that list, even though it's clearly the thing most people are looking for. But anyway, rollout weird. I'd seen some commercials for the show. I was looking forward to it. Looked fun. I am one of those people that has like an infinite amount of tolerance for Nicolas Cage. I think he's fun pretty much every situation. Not super familiar with Oren Uziel. Kind of all over the place in terms of credits. Wrote the screenplay for 22 Jump Street, a movie I quite like. Also wrote the screenplay and story for The Cloverfield Paradox, a movie I quite do not. Worked on Mortal Kombat, The Lost City, and he is the showrunner for this series. I would say one of the most interesting things about this series is the idea that you can watch it in 2 ways. This is a big part of the advertising. You can watch it in authentic black and white or true hue full color. I watched the first episode in black and white first because I figure that's kind of the default for how a lot of people will watch it. Went back and watched it again in color. I think the color version is better. Not because I don't think the black and white looks interesting, because I do think it's lit in a way that makes the black and white pop, but because of how kind of aggressively and deliberately it is lit, the color version looks interesting. I don't know if this is going to be true over the course of the whole series. Maybe I kind of adjust to it, but it's got a very interesting palette. Lots of oranges, lots of blues. I'm sure most people will watch the black and white version, but I gotta say the color version, not so bad. As far as the story goes, first episode doesn't give you too much We're introduced to some of the main players, obviously Spider-Noir himself, Nicolas Cage. In this universe, by the way, he is called the Spider, not Spider-Noir, because that's just what he is. It would be weird if he called himself that. So I would say there's a lot of things to like about at least this first episode. But one big thing that's going to make a lot of difference is how you feel about Nicolas Cage. Now, like I said, I'm a big fan. I find pretty much everything he does interesting. I am very happy that he's doing this. He seems pretty committed to it, seems to be having fun. I can see some people just not being a fan of this humor, especially, the Nicolas Cage shtick. And if that's the case, probably is not for you. I do think he's not just doing Nicolas Cage. He's putting on a performance, doing a character, but at the end of the day, it's pretty hard to separate this character from Nicolas Cage. And if you don't like Nicolas Cage, you probably won't like him here either. A lot of other secondary characters are introduced in this first episode. I would say the big four are pretty interesting, and I like them. Start with Lamar Morris plays Robbie Robertson. Great. Robbie is a Spider-Man character who almost never gets the amount of attention he deserves in live-action material. But, for people that don't know, Robbie Robertson was in the original Tobey Maguire Spider-Man. He is Peter's boss at the Bugle, who is the opposite of J. Jonah Jameson. Cares about journalism, finding the truth, he's got good instincts, and he's nice. He's got an interesting past, but because he's a character who is just nice to Spider-Man, he's a character fans really like. I think Lamar Morris is doing an interesting job here so far. Very committed. Character's kind of bright, little peppy, which is a good contrast to Nick Cage's Ben Reilly. By the way, this character is Ben Reilly, it's not Peter Parker, which is the best explanation for how people know that this is not the Spider-Man from Into the Spider-Verse, because he was introduced as,
"My name is Peter Parker."
Now that could be an alias, whatever. The first line of this series would kind of suggest that maybe he has met with another Spider-Man, he didn't know it, they were looking for the other one, they bumped into him. That's just kind of like a theory on what we're supposed to read from that, but I think the most important thing is this is not the character from Into the Spider-Verse. But either way, Ben Reilly's playing it cool, right? He's doing this Humphrey Bogart thing. So I like the energy Lamar Morris's Robbie Robertson brings to counteract that. At the same time, Karen Rodriguez plays Ben's secretary, Janet Ruiz. Pretty fun. I would say she's doing a great job at the standard assistant who is not getting paid by the detective and has to keep getting upset with them and quitting. Loved the fact that she has a gun. Think that's fun. Then we got the two weird ones. Brendan Gleeson is playing Silvermane. Silvermane is traditionally one of the Spider-Man adjacent gangsters like Hammerhead or Tombstone or the Kingpin. The thing that's most interesting about Silvermane is eventually he replaces his body with robot parts. Maybe that is something we'll do over time. That doesn't appear to be where we are right now. At this point, he's just Brendan Gleeson, a scary guy with an Irish accent, but also there's something else going on with this accent, and I can't quite place it. Let me know in the comments or on Twitter if anybody else caught anything interesting about this accent. But obviously, Brendan Gleeson's a great actor, and I think this version of the character is going to be cool. It does feel like we're using him here because he is just one of the characters who has never been in anything before. So I want to have a mobster bad guy, and it's we're going to do Tombstone in a thing in the future. Also, he has superpowers, so it wouldn't really work. Hammerhead's a pretty specific look, but Silvermane, that one's up for grabs. And then you got Lee Jun-Lee playing Cat Hardy. Now, this character is great. I think you could sell the series to me just with the conversation between Ben Reilly and Cat Hardy at the lounge. They have such a good chemistry. It's really quick. They're both being very aggressive. She's playing incredibly cool. He's playing kind of a goofball. Again, we're matching Nicolas Cage's energy here, but now he's playing it a little hotter and she's playing it a little colder. I don't know if the editing in this scene was just a lot slicker, but this to me is the show. It seems like Cat Hardy is going to be a big player here. Spider-Man fans know Cat Hardy is not a character exactly, but Felicia Hardy is a character known as the Black Cat, who is traditionally an anti-hero super thief who works with Spider-Man, has an on-again, off-again love affair with Spider-Man, and has the power to give people bad luck. So this version is clearly kinda supposed to be her, but is not Felicia Hardy, I guess. I don't know why they're calling her this. Maybe it's because they want to do something with Felicia Hardy later and don't want to confuse people. Lee Jun-Lee, people probably recognize her most recently from Sinners, but it seems like she's going to be one of the leads of this series. I like Black Cat. I think Black Cat's a really fun character. Black Cat has had some pretty good solo runs. She's basically Spider-Man's Catwoman. Catwoman's a great character. I would be fine with this just being a Black Cat show. Not that I don't like this version of Spider-Noir, but this is one of the characters who could support their own show, and you can kind of feel that they're a little bit more interesting than some of these other ones. We get the introduction of some other superheroes, some we're supposed to recognize. We get an up until this point unnamed fire character who is not apparently Butane or Molted Man or any of the other spider adjacent characters who have fire powers. But we're also introduced in this week to Sandman, who is Flint Marko. So this isn't a, Johnny Flint situation. This is a version of the character the way he usually works, although it seems like the sand affects him physically, like using the superpower is kind of killing him, so that could be cool. I think the effect looked okay, and it's a very good place to put that character. One thing that's interesting that I wasn't expecting, we have a setup in this show where Spider-Man hasn't been Spider-Man in a while because he hung up being Spider-Man and he has to get back into the saddle. In a lot of other media, that would feel kind of annoying, because it's like, why can't he just be Spider-Man? In noir, that does feel pretty appropriate, because so many of the characters have some sort of tragedy in their history that it's stopping them from doing the cool thing they want to do. In this case, it is be Spider-Man, and apparently it's because his wife, named Ruby Williams here, was killed in some sort of car-related murder. Spider-Man could not save her because, as we all know from the video games, water is the enemy of Spider-Man. Also from the movies, water is the enemy of Spider-Man. This is just really consistent for Spider-Man's whole thing. So those are most of the characters. Don't get a ton of Spider-Man action in this episode besides this big introduction where Spider-Man is swinging around, which, to be fair to the show, I thought there was a good chance that'd be the last shot of the last episode, so nice that they started with it. Then we get the fight between Ben and Flint Marko. But I wouldn't say that's a particularly Spider-Man-y fight. Based on the trailer, it seems like we're going to get some other scenes that are going to feel more Spider-Man-esque. Even though we've already talked about the color, I do want to talk about the production design generally. I think it looks good. I think this is a good-looking show. It accurately seems to reflect what the 20s and 30s looked like at that time. I think one of the things I'm most impressed with coming out of this first episode is how the show sounds. Because sure, a lot of movies and shows are in black and white. It's not that unusual. And a lot of them do it for this reason, where they set something in the past when they only had black and white movies. They have that play out in black and white for us, the audience. What they don't usually do is get the audio as crisp, kind of as crackly, especially the vocals. This show feels like an old noir movie, and I think that's really impressive. Speaks to that they are not half-assing it, even something that I don't think most people would recognize or care much about. Besides that, the cinematography is good. Shots are framed in cool ways. Wouldn't say I had too many favorites besides a lot of the stuff with Cat at the lounge. Speaking of Cat, my cat Mortimer not on my lap. I think he's a little jealous because he also loves to sing, and he can't handle the competition now with the other singing cat from the TV show. Let's look at a couple small things that I thought were kind of fun. First, let's talk about the intro narration. It's your first look at Spider-Man Noir. It's also the first time you hear him. Now, we have heard Spider-Man Noir before, or at least a version of this character, the Spider, whatever we're calling him, in Into the Spider-Verse. He didn't sound quite like this. Nicolas Cage here sounds like, especially in this opening monologue, he's doing a voice. The same way that, his Dracula sounded like he was doing a Dracula voice in that Dracula movie that had a good trailer. And I like it enough, and maybe there's something to hearing that voice in live action. Maybe it's not that different from the version from Into the Spider-Verse, but just, hearing it in live action, it sounds kind of weird. Mostly because it seems like the way he does his voices, it just feels like he's got stuff in his mouth. Which, sure, just like a brave way to start the show is with this goofy bit of Nicolas Cage narration. I also like that they got over the multiverse thing really quickly by saying, hey, people say I'm from a different universe. I don't even know what that means. We're not going to talk about it this season, because I don't want to have to think about it, because it's not fun. Maybe in a second season, if somebody comes out of the multiverse or something, then it will feel interesting, but that can't be all this is for. I want this to be its own thing. I do want to point out, Ruby Williams, not a character I could find any reference to. Ben Reilly traditionally has a girlfriend, but it's not her. None of the names match up even a little bit. Now again, Ben Reilly isn't usually this character. Or we haven't talked about it yet, Ben Reilly is traditionally the name given to Spider-Man's clone. It was supposed to take over for him in the 90s and didn't quite work. But either way, he's the more radical 90s clone version of Spider-Man, not the old guy version of Spider-Man. I would say there was one line that I didn't like, and it came from Janet, and it's this.
I don't know if you're aware, but there's a depression going on.
That only one that felt a little weird to me, because overall I think the writing of this show is consistent with how people in those movies talk. Not necessarily how people in the 20s talked, but how the characters in the movies about the 20s and 30s talked. And the only line that fully felt like it didn't fit in was that one. I love how everybody smokes in this show, because they do in this kind of media. The Spider-Man from the noir universe is very different from regular Spider-Man. He's one of the Spider-Men with a gun who will just shoot you. And also apparently is one of the Spider-Men who'll just do opium. I will say this episode had one of my favorite things that a Spider-Man villain can do. So you get beat up by Spider-Man, and then Spider-Man's like, okay, you're a regular guy, just beat you up, starts walking away. And as you start walking away, we see over the shoulder that the guy is getting up and maybe making some weird sounds. And we're like, oh, this guy has superpowers. Then the real fight starts. We get that moment with Sandman. I think it's quite fun. I also like how much the series is just about superpowers. Like, superpowers exist. All the characters are aware of them. They're aware that the spider guy existed. Guys like Silvermane are like, there's a new guy with superpowers and we have to get him so he can be part of our super guy power group. I think that's fun. I think that's more fun than trying to make it feel realistic, whatever that would be. So overall, my thoughts on the first episode of Spider-Noir: pretty good. It is not going to be everybody's cup of tea. Some people are just tired of Spider-Man. I get that. However, I think Nicolas Cage fans are really going to like this. People like Spider-Man are going to like this. People who can be okay with the idea that Spider-Man is both trying to be, and like he said in an interview, part Humphrey Bogart and part Bugs Bunny. Like, he is trying to be totally cool and serious, and at the same time, he acts like a Looney Tune. And I do think that's a very good way to describe how this character feels. If that's not going to be fun for you, this probably isn't for you. And if you're a Spider-Man noir purist, this also might not work for you just because it is reinventing a lot of parts of the Spider-Man noir mythology. However, I don't think there's that many of those that exist that won't just be happy that he's getting a show at all. So I think I'm going to do one of these for every episode. I don't know, there's 8. They're all out now. I hate it. I hate that they do it like this. It is no fun for me. And it is no fun, I think, for the overall show. Like, I think the conversation week to week is really important for a show like this. Giving people a week to watch 1, maybe 2 episodes in the first batch feels like the right way to do it. And I don't understand why all these streamers seem to arbitrarily decide who gets a weekly release and who gets dumped all at once. And we get the little preview at the end of the episode showing like other villains, some sort of electricity guy, a version of Tombstone that I think we're going to have a lot to talk about in like a future video. And obviously more Sandman. It'd be cool if he turns into a big sand guy like he does in Spider-Man 3. But I'm fine with him also just being a guy, because sand is dangerous. It's like heavy, it's hard, like that is enough to make you a formidable supervillain. Speaking of sand, I was watching a video recently by Tom Scott. It's part of his England series. And this video, which came out 2 days ago, is called "This Man Stops People Drowning in Quicksand." It is part of Tom's quest to go to every historic county in England and learn something interesting about that county. He goes to Westmoreland County, which is not a thing, but it is a historic county, so it makes sense. And goes to Morecambe Bay, which is a bay that historically people were able to cross on foot. However, because of all the water and sand, a lot of people ended up getting caught in quicksand. So Tom goes with some people on a charity walk through the bay, and he talks to The King's Guide to the Sands, which is a real title you can get in England about quicksand and the history of this area. Very interesting, and you can watch that video on YouTube eventually, but as of recording, the only place you can find it is on this video's sponsor, Nebula. Nebula is where you should be watching these. It's the creator-owned subscription streaming service that I helped to create. So basically all my videos, that's Nando V Movies videos, and the Nando Cut videos too, go on Nebula first. You can watch them without ads, you can download them to watch them offline. It is without a doubt the best way to watch my videos. Nebula is already a steal at $5 a month, or just $60 a year. But if you go to go.nebula.tv/thenandocut, you can get a year of Nebula for just $30. That is $2.50 a month. It is an amazing deal. Again, go to go.nebula.tv/thenandocut to check it out. So we'll do another Spider-Man video probably very soon. Until then, stay safe. I'll see you around.